What's up? What's the Weatherman here, so it can't be a better man near. And with the KC Cup arriving, I figured now would be as good a time as any to go over the best counters in the game to the best decks out right now, which are, as I'm recording this, Tachyon, Branded, and Trap Tricks being the best decks, but Yugioh Bird, B-Trooper, and Punk not falling far behind. So here you go. Here are the best tech cards to play for this format. First card we're going to talk about is actually a pair of cards, being Veiler and Infinite Impermanent. These cards do work pretty good if you go against Tachyon to negate Golden Shadow Dragon to stop them from searching for Transmigration. Transmigration is an Omni Negate that they can play from the hand as long as they control a Galaxy-Eyes Tachyon Dragon, so stopping them from having this card is a big deal. This may even also stop them from summoning Galaxy-Eyes Tachyon Dragon in the first place, which means even if they do have the Omni Negate, they may not be able to activate it unless they have another way to put one on board. Imperm is also good for trying to break boards, because you could use it going second versus Branded by negating Masquerade so that you don't have to pay life points to win the game. These hand traps do also work well versus most rogue decks like Blue Eyes and Sword Soul. For the next card, this is going to be another hand trap that works versus a decent amount of the meta, but not all of it. The next card is going to be Droll and Lock Bird. Droll says if a card is added from the main deck to your opponent's hand except during the draw phase, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, and for the rest of this turn, cards cannot be added from either player's main deck to the hand, essentially meaning our opponent only gets one search. And for many decks, this may weaken what they can do turn one, if not just straight up win the game for you. I do think this card is weaker than other cards that will be mentioned simply due to the lack of versatility, and that's kind of practically it. This card does really well versus Yugioh Bird, which is newly tier 3, as well as B-Trooper, which is tier 2, and Trap Tricks, which is tier 1. Versus Tachyon, it only really works if they don't have a great hand to begin with. And with Branded, I mean, you're gonna weaken them technically, but I don't believe it's gonna weaken them in any meaningful way. It does hurt Sword Soul though, so I guess you could continue ruining my streams when I'm just trying to enjoy my synchros. Next, we're gonna talk about the card Blizzard. Blizzard is a quick play spell with the effect to target one face-up spell your opponent controls. This turn, negate the activated effects of that spell and all spells on the field with that same original name. If the targeted card would be sent to the opponent's graveyard this turn, it is added to their hand instead. Blizzard is a good card for the matchup with Branded, Tachyon, B-Trooper, and Yugioh Bird. Versus Branded, you can negate Branded Fusion. Versus B-Trooper, you can negate the field spell. Versus Yugioh Bird, you can negate the ritual spell Yugioh Bird's Calling. And versus Trap Tricks, you can negate the field spell Trap Trip Garden. These aren't all game-ending activations, but alongside whatever relevant deck you're playing, this may be enough alongside your inherent interruptions to win the game. Not to mention, you could also negate generic spells as well, such as Book of Eclipse with this card. You could also negate Forbidden Droplet as long as they didn't send a spell with Droplet, but that's all for this card. Next, we got Big Raga the Op Stopper. None other than your favorite card who's not just a monster. I'm talking about Nibiru. If your opponent normal or special summons 5 or more monsters this turn, quick effect, you can tribute as many face-up monsters on the field as possible, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand, then special summon one primal being token to your opponent's side of the field. This will do good versus Branded, though depending on the hand, it won't end the game for them. And some Branded decks do play Dragoon, so in those cases, it might just get outright negated. Versus Tachyon, depending on how they do the combo, you may be able to successfully nib them, but more often than not, they can negate it, which I would still say is good because it does mean their Omni Negate is out of the way. Nib does help beat 2 of the best decks in the game, and practically every rogue deck in existence right now doesn't want to see Nib. The downside to this card, I would just say, is the top deck in this card kind of sucks. Once they already set up their board, drawing Nib practically does nothing. If you open it though, this card alone can win games versus a lot of decks. Up next is one of the best spells in the game, and of course it's none other than Forbidden Droplet. Droplet allows you to send cards from your hand and or field to the graveyard and non-target negate the same amount of monsters your opponent controls. On top of that, your opponent cannot respond to this card's activation with the same type of cards that you sent to the graveyard. Meaning if you send a spell, monster, trap, or some combination of the 3, then your opponent can't activate any of those type of cards in response. If you send a monster from your hand or field to the graveyard, Dragoon wouldn't be able to negate you, for example. This would also make Dragoon targetable, so your inherent interruptions could probably remove them. This will also negate Masquerade as well as Mirror Jade. They may be able to summon another Mirror Jade, but you can at least have 2 less interruptions that you would usually have to deal with, and you don't have to, again, pay life points to play the game. Versus Tachyon, Droplet really isn't very impactful, but maybe the reduction could come into play. For games against most decks though, this is a strong card that will help you win a lot of games. Book of Eclipse is another great quick play spell overall, but is held back just a tad because of the format. Book of Eclipse will change all face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position. This card is good at breaking boards going second, and if you're a fusion deck, you can potentially dodge effects like Effect Veiler or Imperm going first. For example, you could summon Gesture, then flip yourself down in response to your opponent trying to Imperm you, and you will get to activate your effect, as well as your Gesture will still be able to be used as fusion material. Not suggesting that you play Eclipse and Branded, I'm just giving you a scenario. It would also be good versus Branded though, by flipping all of their monsters face down to get rid of most of their disruptions, and sometimes all of them if their hand wasn't strong enough. It does suffer to the fact that it isn't very good versus Tachyon, which is possibly the strongest deck of the format, as well as one of the most common decks on the ladder. But overall though, Eclipse is still one of the strongest staples of the format. It's just a little bit lower in power simply because of Tachyon. Last and certainly not least, and honestly this might be the best staple of the format, I've got Kaijus and Lava Golem. Kaijus allow you to special summon them to your opponent's side of the field in attack position by tributing one of their monsters. In Lava Golem's case, you contribute 2 of your opponent's monsters to summon it to their field, but you can't normal summon for the rest of the turn. You will also burn them on their standby phase for 500 damage if it does happen to still be on the field. These cards are great because we can get rid of our opponent's problematic monsters without them being able to respond to us by essentially giving them normal monsters. Versus Tachyon, this is probably the best staple you could have because you could get rid of Galaxy Eye's Tachyon Dragon in a way that they wouldn't be able to even respond to, and their Omni Negate is practically dead. Versus Branded, you could use this to get rid of Masquerade, or Mirror Jade alongside Masquerade if you're using Lava Golem. So these cards are good in general versus practically every deck, which is why I think these might be potentially the best staples of the format. If you agreed, give the video a like and share it with a friend. If you disagree, let's talk about it in the comments. Either way, I've been Weatherman, Team 6K signing out. Deuces.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the Weatherman. I ain't ask them to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast. For real.